First of all, describe Cumbria 2012 in 5 words.
It is. Cumbria is a fantastic place to live and work. It's a place of really interesting people who are committed to their communities, and it has a fantastic county council with about 8,000 really enthusiastic staff who go out of their way to do a good job for the public of Cumbria.
And what challenges does the Chief Executive face daily, and was that a position you always aspired to? I mean, when you were younger, did you set out with that career goal in mind and that ambition in mind?
I never set out wanting to be a Chief Exec, and I didn't even know what a Chief Exec did. I wanted to work with people, and I started working in a hostel for homeless men. And that was my first real full-time job after university, working with people. I've always wanted to make a difference, and that's what's been important to me, to make a difference to people and the communities that they live in.
Okay, and so working through the career ladder is just something that's happened as you've progressed really then naturally?
Usually I've applied for jobs because I've thought, well, if I don't apply for this, someone not as good as me might get it, and I'd have to work for them. So I thought, I might do that. And that's the only job I applied for, because I really, really wanted the job, was I wanted to be a director of adults. I was very, very pleased to be given the director of adults job in Cumbria. I'm also pleased to be the Chief Exec in Cumbria. It is a very interesting job.
What do you propose, or how do you propose to demonstrate the County Council isn't just about the corporate centre here in Carlisle, but about the people out there on the front line, be it in Barrow, be it in Whitehaven, be it in Workington? How can you make them feel appreciated and know that they're valued, really?
We've got a fantastic video called The Cumbrian Promise, put together by Looked After Children in Cumbria. And that was about, where is the Cumbria Promise? And that video went right over Cumbria looking for the Cumbria Promise and said it's everywhere. And that's like county council services, really. They are everywhere. Look out of the window, look at the roads. Those are roads normally that we manage by our fantastic highways teams. Many of the services, from cradle to grave, the registrar's service, for example, the library services, all services we all use, are everywhere in Cumbria. It isn't about it being located where the headquarters is. And I like to get out from my desk and see staff, and usually several times a year get out and talk to teams, talk about the work that they do. And I'm always really encouraged by the high quality of work that they do. So what are really difficult times for staff at the moment.
In these times of austerity and then people being made redundant, how can we justify the amount we spend on agency staff working for the council, sometimes for quite a long duration of time?
The corporate management team and I have done quite a lot of work looking at agency staff, because it looked like from our HR reports that they had increased significantly. In fact, that isn't the case. We'd actually wrongly coded supply teachers to agency staff, which gave us a spike in our figures. And of course, supply teachers, as you know, are not agency staff. So we occasionally will need agency staff when it's better value for money to purchase that service for a short period of time, and the short period of time might be a year, for example, rather than employ someone ourselves. So let me give you an example. If we're doing a complex planning application, we might need a specialist in newts or bats. That's not a core role for the county council, but it's an agency or an interim members of staff role that they could do, and on a bat survey or a newt survey. And that might be one of the justifications for good use of agency staff. In other areas, we have to use agency staff when, say, like for children's social workers, we haven't recruited in time and we have a gap. And those kind of posts, we can't really have gaps in. But we are trying to increase our recruitment so that we have permanent members of staff and not agency staff.
How can single status have been fair when some members of staff have perhaps lost money, especially in these tough financial times, placing themselves under even more financial pressure? How would you say to people in that position that it's been a fair process that we've gone through?
Whenever somebody loses money, it can never feel fair to them personally. But the purpose of single status is to make sure that we have a fair pay structure for 8,500 staff. And I understand that some people have lost money, but we cannot have people doing the same job paid two different rates of pay, or one working 30 hours a week and one working 37 hours a week, and both of those being seen to be full-time. So an equal pay single status is about equal pay, and as soon as you equalise anything, you have winners and losers, and it will never feel fair to the losers. But in Cumbria County Council, we are committed to giving everybody the best training opportunities they can have, and the best opportunities in a fair way to apply for posts as they come up. So over time, I hope for those people who have lost money that there will be opportunities for them to do different things and actually to feel happier with the position of their pay. But those people who've lost money, for them, of course, it's very difficult, but they are a small number because our elected members wanted there to be the smallest number of people possible losing money.
That leads us quite nicely to the next question, actually, and that's about raising staff morale in the light of single status, kind of location moves and pay freezes. How do you go about lifting morale with that in the background?
I think this is the hardest time in 30 odd years I've been in local government. It's hard because our budget year on year has been cut significantly. In fact, since I was Chief Exec in 2009, and if we go till the end of 2015, the County Council's budget will have reduced by a quarter. Now, you can't do that and still have people having pay rises and people having jobs. And we know, because we know people, all of us, colleagues and friends who've been made redundant, mostly on voluntary redundancy terms. But this is a very, very challenging time for local government. The thing about morale is that on a day-to-day basis, the thing that cheers us all up is that we do a good job. And the people out there recognise what a good job we do, wherever that is, whether that's in children's services, whether that's in adult services, whether that's doing the highways, whatever it is, whether it's one of the county council planners, that the public recognise what an excellent job, and I recognise alongside our elected members that our staff, despite all that's thrown at them, continue to do an excellent job. And that's the thing that I think maintains their morale and maintains everyone else's morale at this very, very difficult time for local government.
Kind of similar question as well, but this is perhaps more of a personal view. I mean, do you think that you personally represent good value for money to Cumbria's taxpayers?
I think it's important to say that there's no chief exec in the country, in local government, that sets their own pay scales. The pay scales were set by members in 2009. They decided to keep the pay the same as it had been in the previous years for chief execs. And I applied for that job against national competition alongside other people who applied for it and was successful in getting it. And as with all the other staff in the Cumbria County Council, my pay has not increased in any way. And indeed, I've looked for ways of being more efficient in both what I do, in terms of my use of county resources, but also in terms of my expenses. And one of the things, people have all sorts of fantasies about a chief exec's expenses, like she has a car as well, but I don't. I have the same other terms and conditions as other people in the council. And to try and make that better, I've asked that all my expenses go on the internet so people can have a look at them and it be completely transparent. I think it's for elected members, the people you vote for, to make a decision about how much they want to pay their chief exec. And having made that decision, which is what they have, then I have to make sure I work hard to justify that level of pay and make sure that we provide, as a county council, the best services that we possibly can do.
And this was a question that actually a couple of people forwarded on to us. They wanted to know what your take was on managers being allowed to buy things outside of EPROC. They think that would, find savings for us and might be a better way of using our money. What do you say to that?
We have saved millions of pounds worth of money through using e-procurement. Having said that, there may be examples where occasionally things, for whatever reason, can be found outside of e-procurement at a cheaper rate. And because of that, and because we wanted to keep the e-procurement system live, we set up a feedback loop where if people do find it cheaper outside e-procurement, they can ring the team and they can report that so we can have a look at it. The problem is, these things are much more complicated than when you first look at them. So it may be, for example, that you could buy a piece of IT kit, but the price on e-procurement might involve the servicing and the replacement of that. So it might be that you could buy a pair of, protective gloves, but the standard and quality of what we have on e-procurement meets the council's requirements. So it isn't always as easy as saying, well, I found it here cheaper than what there is on e-procurement. We want the catalogue and e-procurement to be the best that it can be, and because of that we recognise we need a feedback loop, so if people do find it cheaper elsewhere, they can have a look at it. But by and large, it's saved us lots of money, millions of pounds, by using e-procurement, and actually reducing the choice for people. So we don't have a big choice now about which pens we use or bits of paper we use. We buy those in the most cost-effective bulk purchase way. And that means that we have more money left to pay staff and we can keep more staff's jobs.
Okay. If you had a magic wand and one wish to help Cumbria, what would it be?
I would wish that the County Council staff and our partners, through these difficult times, keep a focus on serving people in Cumbria. Not fighting with each other and falling out about, differences, but actually keep a focus, because we've got some really tough times ahead. It's not going to get any better if we listen to what's happening at national government level and the savings that still have to be found. So working together, keeping a focus on people and not falling out with each other.
Okay, thank you. And then a more light-hearted one to finish, how do you spend your leisure time?
I spend my leisure time walking with my husband. I like to do that preferably in Scotland and away from people other than him. So we actually get some time together.